This is me, Brandon Noel. This is my envelope sketch. Uh, yeah. So if you want to go to patreon.com/Destiny Comics, you can get yourself some original art just mailed to you as a sketch on an envelope. So it's one of the cool things that we offer, or I offer. This month is all about Ghostbusters, and unfortunately, if we're doing the legacy of Ghostbusters, at some point I have to discuss the 2016 reboot. Everything that has been can be said about this thing has been said about it. It never really should have happened. It's a disgrace to the legacy of Ghostbusters. It insulted fans' intelligence. But it happened. And they even tried to salvage it by rebranding it Ghostbusters Who You Gonna Call. That's a thing that happened. For the longest time, I didn't want to see it. I eventually sat down and watched it. Here's the thing. 2016, at the time when this reboot was coming out, IDW was publishing the Ghostbusters comics. They knew what was coming up, so they didn't know exactly what was going to happen. So they developed their own all-female team. And there's a whole series with all-female Ghostbusters in the comics. Almost. Oh, sorry. And that was handled brilliantly. They were introduced in the background of other stories. They were allowed to be actual characters. And then we built up to a story of like kind of passing the torch. And that was brilliant. That was what I think fans expected. I think that's what fans wanted. And then we got this car wreck of an whatever. It's not even a film. It's you know, it's not. It is what it is, and it happened. But I really enjoyed the comics that came out of it. I thought what IDW did back then was brilliant, and the movie should have followed suit. We, especially like a fan, like for me, when I think Ghostbusters, my first thought, yes, I love those movies. But my first thought is the animated series. Like, my first thought is the real Ghost, which is the name of the cartoon. My first thought is the animated series, the animated series that ran 9 freaking seasons. Which is, most cartoons get one and done. 3 is considered, a major success in animation. But something like the real Ghostbusters, 9 seasons, and then to get a follow-up series, Extreme Ghostbusters, which I think is even a better take on the next generation of Ghostbusters. I think it there were options. And even the director of, who you gonna call, said something to the effect of he came to Ghostbusters as an adult, and for him, Ghostbusters is a dark comedy starring Saturday Night Live cast members. And so from that perspective, yeah, I can completely understand this interpretation, if that's what you think Ghostbusters are. But to the majority of, the fandom, Ghostbusters is, the Ghostbusters. They're these characters that we've been following for decades. Whether it be in the cartoons, comics, video games. So we really did need a passing of the torch film in order for the fandoms to really accept new Ghostbusters. As not anyone can pick up the proton pack and just be accepted by the fandom that's been holding this up for, since the 80s. So I wanted to like the new Ghostbusters. I wanted, I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be more than just a bunch of set pieces. I wanted it to be character driven. I wanted it to be funny, and I wanted it to be scary, which is a lot to ask of a film. But if you're going to have the fucking balls to call yourself Ghostbusters, those are the things you need to hit. So again, this whole thing was a huge disappointment for me. And then, there was the Angry Video Game Nerd came out and called it and put a lot of what we were all thinking out there. And we all got like there was some sexism involved with some of the fan base, but the majority of the nerds I know, the gender had nothing to do with why we dislike this movie. Again, IDW was freaking killing it with an all-female team. So if I, as a diehard Ghostbusters fan, had no problem accepting a brand new female team in the comics, it's your movie's the problem. It's not me. Here I am years later drawing out, well, why would I do this, because at the end of the day, as much as I dislike it, they're in the club. They're Ghostbusters, right? They did the job. They made the movie. Even IDW tried to salvage this movie by bringing them into the comics and crossing them over with, other versions of the Ghostbusters, which is the movie I want to see. I know we're all getting a little tired of multiverse nonsense, but I want to see my Ghostbusters, the animated Ghostbusters, cross over into a live action film. And it would be perfectly okay if these guys crossed over too. I forget the name of that series IDW did, where they crossed over all the versions of the Ghostbusters. But hey, you can get away with crazy stuff like that in comics. That's why I love comic books. Alright, so there you have it. The sketch video for the Ghostbusters. Envelope sketch. If you want an original piece of art on an envelope, patreon.com/destinycomics. That was my harsh thoughts on the 2016 Ghostbusters. But again, I drew them because they're part of the family. You can't exclude them. You can't. You can sure as hell try to pretend they didn't happen, but it unfortunately happened. Patreon.com/DestinyComics.